Hello and welcome to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network, presented by Coors Light. Go from full-time to game time. Coors Light, made to chill. Make sure you find the Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe, and please rate and review the show. I'm your host, William Liu. I'm joined by co-host Blake Murphy for segment 1, and we will also be joined shortly on the line by everyone's favorite currently, Dennis Schröder, who had a difficult game last night. The Raptors had a difficult game last night against the Heat. But Blake, how you doing, man?
I'm all right. That game was a slog. It was a really unfortunate performance.
Yeah.
112-103 was the final on that one. I guess it was close until kind of late. The Raptors came back after digging a 15-point hole yet again in the first half. They got up, they led heading into halftime, and then they came out to the start of the third quarter, immediately turned the ball over. Darko had to use 2 timeouts early in that third quarter, turnovers out of both ATOs that they were drawn up. There was just, I mean, we've seen this at times, a kind of lack of focus, I guess. The transition defense has really slipped lately, which we'll talk about when we do Triple N in the second hour today. But man, it's kind of more of the same. Like night to night, 1 or 2 guys have a good game. You have a good quarter. You're able to erase a big lead or build erase a big deficit or build a lead, and then you can't string it together for not 48. You can't string it together for 36. Can't really string it together for 24. So I don't mean to be sour to start the show, but they're now 3 games under 500, and then they have dropped a lot of games to teams who we thought, or at least they thought, would be around their level. How you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, it was a frustrating watch at the arena for that game because, there's obviously great mood and great vibe every time Kyle Lowry comes back into town. And the Raptors have played the Heat really well, I thought, over the last couple of years. Again, with the new coach and I guess a slightly different roster, you can't just say that they've done well against them in the past and sort of carry that forward. But you did expect a more competitive game. And the fact that they came out really flat, which has been a recurring problem for Toronto, just kind of put you in this bad mood where the Raptors were constantly chasing. And I'll give guys credit, like, they didn't fold. They kept, making the comeback. It was like the Heat would go up 10, and then the Raptors called timeout. Then the Raptors climb back, maybe even tie. And then the Heat will call timeout, and they go back up 10. It was just that same pattern over and over again where the Raptors were never really on top. And, even despite all those mistakes, the Raptors were still in it late in the game. And that's where I think some late mistakes, also some pretty great adjustments from Eric Spoelstra, I think really helped to push the Heat over the top. But yeah, when you look at it, you're just kind of like really unsatisfied with the idea that they don't have Bam. It wasn't like Jimmy Butler was going off. It wasn't
Tyler Hero was out too.
Tyler Hero's been out.
Highsmith, who I know people don't know super well yet, and you guys have chuckled when I bring him up, but he's the guy that you would have guarding Pascal Siakam with Bam out. Like he was out as well.
I saw him in Toronto at the ball don't stop hoop run. I'm serious. He was actually the best player there.
And
outside of Shaedon Sharpe, but yeah.
And it's not like the Heat shot the lights out on them, or like the Heat went zone and the Raptors actually handled it.
I thought
for a change. This was like controllable stuff. Like, how does someone come into the game and Duncan Robinson, who's shooting 45% on threes this year and is known primarily as a shooting specialist, and the assignment gets missed that you don't go under against Duncan Robinson, or if you get caught off of Duncan Robinson, that's an emergency closeout situation. Duncan Robinson's standing there with half a segment on our show worth of time to take his threes. Like, I just don't understand how that stuff is still happening here 21 games into the season against a team that you know really well.
It was disappointing. I think the play you're referring to was in the fourth quarter. And
there were a couple, but yes, the most egregious one was in the fourth. And Duncan Robinson even looked at the Raptors bench after. Like, it's the most we've ever seen him chirp, I think. It was kind of a why am I so open look.
Yeah. And, that I think if he looked at the bench, he would have seen the frustration, because there was a moment there where Scotty threw his hands up at Darko and Darko threw his hands up at Scotty. Yeah. And, for all the discussions of this season being different, I think a lot of it is about how much more together. How much more together they're going to play as a group, And I think in terms of focus and execution, it just wasn't really there. A lot of the game yesterday, for example, they wanted to, hedge against Jimmy Butler just to prevent him from fully getting downhill. And there was a stretch in the third quarter there where Jimmy would just read what the Raptors were doing, charge ahead, and the Raptors will always be a beat late, and he would just get easy free throws out of that, or
And
put the Raptors into the foul trouble. And it's like very, very simple, basic things were just not being executed based on a lack of focus. Meanwhile, on the Miami end, they had guys that you wouldn't necessarily think are like premier scorers, but the Raptors lost yesterday to Duncan Robinson. They lost to Orlando Robinson, who, unless they heard our segment with Amy, nobody knew who that was. They lost to Jaime Jaquez Jr., who was, I thought, really good for them off the bench. They lost to Caleb Martin, who had 23 points in the first half. Those are all detail things. You can't tell me that the Raptors, who really pride themselves on defense, can't nail the details to solve some of those players.
it was like a game full of Max Strus scoring 20 and a quarter. Now, I know I like 112, the overall defensive rating for the game, not that crazy or anything like that. But you mentioned the Jimmy Butler thing, and yeah, he only had 19 points. But like you're saying, first of all, put them in foul trouble at times. It's also just such a contrast in terms of Miami comes down the floor, and their offense is predicated on the fact that it is a given that Jimmy Butler is going to get 2 feet in the paint, and everything that flows from there is what happens once he has feet in the paint and the defense breaks down and you have them rotating. Now, whether that's for Duncan Robinson on the weak side coming off an action, whether that's when they have Bam, it's some DHO stuff. Like there's a lot you can do with it once you get into the paint. And it's just such a stark contrast of their offense assumes Jimmy Butler will get 2 feet in the paint, and the Toronto Raptors offense spends 18 seconds trying to get a foot in the paint. Yeah. It's just so dramatically different in terms of what offense looks like when you can and cannot operate through the paint.
Yeah. And it's funny too when you look at the records, because it was like coming into the game, Miami was 11-9, the Raptors were 9-11. Like roughly speaking, you would say just based on the records, same tier. But when they got on the floor, the execution,
the Raptors were favored.
Yeah, the Raptors were favored, right? Because they're missing Bam, who's their best player. And look, I think everyone wanted to see the Raptors play to their level, but I think that's been part of the issue this year. Is just that inconsistency. We've seen them have good results. Like when they beat Phoenix last week, that was a really, really good result. When they beat Indiana, that was a really good result. Even going back early in the year when they beat Milwaukee.
In both of those cases, though, look at what happened in the game before, right? Like both of those were bounce-back games after they had played really, really poorly. If I'm remembering right, the Pacers one was right after the Magic ran them off the floor.
Yep.
And the Suns one was right after they lost a game that felt really similar to this one against the Nets, who are right around 500 as well.
You're right. There's a lot of issues.
I guess that means they'll beat the Hornets by like 40 on Friday, though, based on the pattern here.
Honestly, they should. And I know tomorrow we will do a segment previewing the game, and I will probably pick the Raptors, but it's hard to know which team will show up, right? Yeah. And I think that's the difficulty and the frustration of watching it. Part of the struggles of last night was the play of Dennis Schroeder, and of course we'll get to Dennis in a second, but I just wanted to set up that conversation talking through it. What did you make of Dennis's decision-making down the stretch? Because that was, to me, the biggest shortcoming for the team. At least we're talking about the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, I thought defensively they weren't that great either, but on the season as a whole, when you look at their crunch time stats, the defense has been there. They hold opponents to under a point per possession, which is a really good rate to do in the crunch time. But what we saw last night is something that's come up a couple times, and it's that the ball runs through Dennis Schroeder in those situations, and he looks to shoot first. And that can be fine if you're cooking that game, if you have a good matchup or whatever. But last night he finished the game 4 for 18. He had almost as many turnovers as assists. And if we look at, I don't use the NBA's version of crunch time. I'll do it myself in last 5 minutes within 10 points. Because I think NBA uses 5 points, and I think that's too narrow in the modern NBA.
I agree with
when
you,
the Pacers can score like 150 points in a game, 5 points is nothing. So let's expand it to 10. So the Raptors have played about 65 minutes in those kind of situations this year. Scotty Barnes has been their highest usage player, which is great. He's been effective. Even if he wasn't, you want to funnel some of those possessions to him anyway. But
even when he's wrong, he's right.
Yeah.
Like yesterday. It really was.
And like last night, Scotty Barnes didn't really have it going, and then he did late. At least he was showing it. And then Pascal, maybe the matchup wasn't there. He scored 30 points on 13 field goal attempts yesterday.
I thought the matchup was perfectly fine for him.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like down the stretch, who knows? Maybe they were sending two to the ball.
They were.
And even if Pascal got it in the corner to try to get it out of his hands, but that means there's 4-on-3 somewhere else. So for that much of the offense to run through Dennis can be tough. And on the season, in those situations, Dennis's usage rate spikes to 27.5%, which means yes, Scotty is still getting his touches, maybe not even as much as you would like, but he's still getting his. And then Dennis is by far number 2, and then there is a huge gap before anyone else. No one else is even above average usage in those situations. And again, that'd be one thing if he was cooking, if he was, Lou Williams back in his Raptors day or whatever as a closer, John Salmons, Mr. Fourth Quarter.
Six man like Will Lou. Sorry.
Dennis Schroeder has a 41% true shooting percentage in those clutch minutes. That's really, really tough. It is harder to score in those situations generally, but this is where, the fact that, hey, the offense is supposed to create more looks now is supposed to help. The fact that, maybe you're not married to Yak being on the floor, so you can get more spacing out there.
Yeah.
That thing's supposed to help. The idea of Scotty and Pascal together is that if you treat Pascal the way the Heat did last night, Scotty's going to be able to get something going the other side. It's really hard to see a scenario where Dennis should be the number 1 option in those scenarios.
Yeah, I agree with you, honestly. It was the same point that we highlighted after the Raptors lost to Boston. I thought there was a couple decisions there that you would probably want to take back. This one was obviously the worst of the bunch. I'm only saying this to play devil's advocate to sort of move the conversation along. I think if you're Darko, part of the reason you want to have Dennis have the ball late in the game is you probably feel like he is your safest ball handler. He can get to different spots on the floor. Now, do you want him to always shoot out of those? Probably not. But also at the same time, defensively, teams are covering Scotty and Pascal much more than they're covering Dennis. The Heat came into last night's game with an approach of let's keep him open. Now, of course, that hurts the offense. Like, I'm not trying to justify it. My point is, I'm thinking about from Darko's perspective, why would you consistently go to this option? Well, part of it
there's
is
an element of taking what the defense is giving you. If they're going to give you a 15-foot Dennis Schroeder open jumper, and that's all you're getting, maybe you got to look to that.
Do you agree with that kind of perspective? Again, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just trying to move this conversation.
I understand it being a part of your thought process.
Okay.
But like last night, and this is a tough thing to say right as he comes on, I didn't even think Dennis should have been on the floor in the closeout minutes. Like, I thought he played that poorly a two-way game. So then for him also to be the guy with the kind of green light was a tough one for me. Dennis has actually played every single clutch minute for the Raptors.
Yeah.
Pascal's the only other one who's done that. Scotty doesn't have all of them because sometimes Darko's substitution pattern.
Oh, we remember that game. That was the Celtics game.
And even if it's not that game, there are some times where like he gets him back in at like the 3-minute 50-second mark or something like that. So you're not getting all of it. But Dennis has been on the floor for every single crunch time minute, and again has this monster usage rate.
And look, I think for Darko, clearly he came into this program with the intention of bringing in someone that he trusts to work with and to lead at least on the floor, if not off the floor as well, in Dennis. And I would say on the overall, what the Raptors have gotten out of the signing has been plus value.
Yeah,
has been good, but at the same time, it's about finding the balance.
Yeah,
that's where the nuance of this
conversation being a good player and being used optimally.
For sure,
and that's
for sure. So what kind of late game offense would you like to see? Because to me, that was just one part of the loss last night. As we detailed up top, offensively, that's where my frustrations were at its greatest. But when we're talking about crunch time offense for the Raptors, how would you want to see it run? Who do you want to see it go through? And what does that look like?
Yeah, I think last night was probably a night where I would have liked to try it with the ball in Scotty's hands as the pseudo point guard. Pascal was, again, drawing the most defensive attention because he'd been so efficient scoring all through the game. Again, 30 points on 13 field goal attempts, 6 assists, only 2 turnovers. Like he had it going. So they were bringing a lot of attention to him. I thought with the overall level of play of everyone, that was a spot where Gary Trent could have slipped into Dennis Schroeder's spot. And that gives you an off-ball option, and you run it through Scotty, and maybe he doesn't have the best matchup because the Heat have enough defenders that they still have a defender left over for Scotty, but at least then you get a little bit of spacing off the ball. If Pascal does draw a double in the post, if Scotty does draw 2 off the pick and roll, we've seen Scotty and Jacob develop a little bit of that pick and roll chemistry, but we don't get to see it a ton. I think, and look, sometimes this can be, well, we have the benefit of hindsight, but this is something I was tweeting with about like whatever the last time out was with like 4 minutes or 3.5 minutes left. I tweeted as much. I just didn't think Dennis quite had it in that matchup against that defense, and something where Gary Trent Jr., who had 15 points, again pretty efficiently shooting last night, maybe that was the look. These things are obviously very tough to figure out on the fly and in the moment though.
Yeah, I hear that. Okay, let's bring in Dennis Schroeder. We understand Dennis. Are you at the airport? Where are you at, man?
Yeah, I'm at the airport.
What's going on, Dennis? Okay, so obviously we got to start with the game last night. It was a tough one. A lot of discussion around your performance from yesterday's game. Take us through it from your perspective. What did you see from the game last night, especially down the stretch?
I mean, first half was great. I mean, we had 20, I think, assists as a team. But I think in the third and fourth quarter, we lost the game, or I lost the game there. Even end of the fourth quarter. I mean, I just didn't bring it on the defensive end, offensive end. Just me being competitive, and I got to be honest, look in the mirror, and there was my game I lost, and I apologize to the team, to everyone, because that's not who I am. But I'm always honest to myself, and I got to be better.
Dennis, I appreciate that level of accountability you're having here with us and with the team. This is maybe hard to answer, but what is the process like for you coming out of a game like that, into practice today, into the flight today? Are you a big, hey, I got to watch back my film guy? Are you trying to flush it? Do you want to sit with that for a little bit as kind of, motivation for the next game? How do you process a rough night?
I mean, everybody can have rough nights, but at the end of the day, my family, my kids, being around them, I mean, it's basketball at the end of the day. Of course, I want to give everything I have every single night. Some nights you don't have it. I don't want to have, a lot of nights like that, because I take a lot of pride in my work, what I do. But I mean, the most important in my life, is my family. So end of the day, being around them, before I went to practice, then letting my teammates know, that I didn't mean to have a bad game, but we are athletes. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that we win as much games as possible. But I mean, I didn't have it, and I just got to bounce back from that. I apologize to the team. It's like, listen, that wasn't my best night, but it's not going to be like that no more. So everybody just got to look in the mirror, like I said, flush this one. I still watch a lot of film. Still try to get better, watch a lot of NBA games as well. So I just try to learn every single day, try to get better, at basketball. And yeah, I mean, flush that one because there was some trash. But we are going to be, ready for tomorrow.
Dennis, when you said you said you apologized to the team, what did the teammates say about that? Like what's their response?
I mean, that was appreciative. I mean, they took it great. They said, listen, we all in that together. It was great to hear that as well, because, I try to bring this team together, and we still working on that team chemistry a little bit, 21 games in, but the next 19 games is going to, kind of identify who we are as a team, and I think we got to make a big push here now, because we are a winning organization, and the organization, front office, president, owner, they want us to win games. So we got to get it together.
Dennis, you mentioned the chemistry component last night. There was the closeout, but you guys also dug a bit of a hole early on. Darko was asked after the game if he's considered any lineup changes, all changing the rotation pattern. Do you guys ever practice that, or do you pretty much just run as the starting five when you guys are going through practices and scenarios and things like that?
I mean, practice is almost not always the same, but of course you got some different lineups out there because it's practice, everybody getting to know each other. But at the end of the day, like I said to my teammates, everybody as an individual got to look in the mirror, because I mean, that game last night was on me for sure at the end. But I mean, we still got 12 guys out there, plus a coach, plus the organization. At the end of the day, everybody just got to look in the mirror, be better on the defensive end, guarding one-on-one, be in shifts, follow the system and the game plan, And when we do that, we're capable of beating good teams, and we just gotta, stick to it.
Dennis, not to linger, this is the last question I'm going to ask you on last night, but when you have a tough night, do you avoid social media? Because I think for people like us, we're on social media like pretty much all the time. It's part of our jobs. It's like an overwhelming amount of response. And I can only imagine how much you get as an athlete. So what is your approach to dealing with that after a tough game or even after a good game?
No, I mean, I do the same thing. I mean, that's not gonna define me if I post if my drop tomorrow coming out, for that stuff, my closing line or a YouTube video dropping. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like I said, it's still the same energy. I mean, to have 82 games in the season in 6 months, what you putting on your body, the pressure, all the fans who's out there try to cheer for you. I mean, it comes a lot, with being a professional athlete and playing in the NBA. So at the end of the day, I'm grateful, of course, but it's not going to change if I have a bad game or I lost the game. I'm gonna still keep the same energy. Same energy when I got to the arena today, to the facility. Being around my teammates, it's still the same thing. I mean, I've been here 11 years now, so
Yeah.
no, go ahead. 11 years, and I mean, if somebody outside of my teammates and my family telling me I can't do nothing, I'll need to hear it because they probably never been on that court and did something. So at the end of the day, I know who I can trust, who I can talk to, and I know what I'm capable of. So you got to be confident. So I mean, that's about it.
Dennis, you mentioned a couple minutes ago that these next 19 games will kind of define who you guys are. I know you talked about that at practice the other day as well. When you look at what this team's done so far and what you guys could be at the midway point or heading into the trade deadline, what do you think is the potential of this group?
I mean, like I said before, I mean, coming into training camp, I think we got, so much talent, so much people, who can play different roles defensively, how we can change up things. I think we can make it really, really tough on teams. But like I said, it comes with a sacrifice for everyone, putting the ego to the side, starting with me, being together more, enjoy togetherness. And if we do that, then sky's the limit. I don't even put a goal on it, but I think the next 19 games, how we, approach the games on the defensive side of the ball as well. And it starts with me picking up full court, 94 feet, and making sure everybody's engaged. We got to do that. And if we do that, then, like I said, sky's the limit.
Yeah. Another thing around the team that I wanted to get to. So this has become a big headline this week, but Darko said he will treat the team to dinner for after 3 wins. Now, this became like a big thing on social media once again. Sorry to go back to this all the time. Can you take us behind this? Like, whose idea was this? And also, is that a motivating factor as a player to hear something like that?
I mean, to get dinner, to get free meals, always.
Okay.
But
right.
At the end of the day, no, I mean, we want to take our job serious. Coach is always great about, coming together as a team, having dinner. And I think that's another thing what I want to take, more pride of and want to do more of it, being together off the court as well. When we get to Charlotte tonight, try to find something where we can eat dinner together as a team, just to come together, talk about life, talk about kids, family, whatever. Can be investments, or it can be a lot of things where we can talk about, just to get to know the person, who you go to battle with every single night. And like I said, I'm from Europe. That's what we do there, kind of with the national team. That's how we got to our success. And when everybody, I think, really trusts in that, I think it's going to be really, really scary. But everybody got to buy into that.
Yeah, I get that. I want to pivot away and ask about your former team. The Lakers are into the semifinals of the in-season tournament. I just want to ask, do you still keep in touch with those guys? I know obviously you speak really fondly about, guys like LeBron, guys like Austin Reeves. Do you still keep in touch with those guys? Because they're in Vegas now.
Yeah, I mean, I stay in contact, of course, with them. I was in Cleveland together when we played against Cleveland. They had a back-to-back, and the Lakers was in town. And of course, I keep in touch with them. Great relationships. 1 second. I mean, great relationships. I mean, we, like I said, basketball is always I mean, that's what we do for a job, but all the relationships you keep, all the friendships, that's the most important. And the family, and I think, I mean, I watched the game, of course, as well. Was really happy for AR.
All right, I think we might have lost Dennis's connection.
Love what they're doing over there. Of course.
There we go. Yeah, sorry.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. We got you now. You're saying you're happy for AR, man, who hit the
you
big
didn't hear
three.
Nothing what I just said?
No, I heard the AR. You say AR hit that big three. He did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry for the connection here.
That's all good.
I mean, AR, did a great job, and I was really, really happy about it. But like I said, friendship in the NBA, being around those guys, they became family kind of to me. So, of course, I love what they're doing over there, and I love, that they went to Vegas, and I'm gonna watch the games today and tomorrow. I think it is. Yeah, tomorrow and no, tonight and the day after, watching that, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, no doubt. I guess the last thing on the in-season tournament was, how much was it on your mind, the 500K? Just because this is all people talk about on the broadcast. They keep saying Vegas is on the line, 500K is on the line. When you went into these in-season tournament games, did you think in the back of your mind, like, yo, if we win 4 of these, we got 500K?
I mean, everybody was in the locker room, of course, talking about it.
Okay.
But I mean, it's still a regular season game, and
Okay.
I think it keeps people engaged early. That people, the in-season tournament is kind of like a playoff game because it's a knockout round after that, and I think it's a great thing for the league, and it makes it really competitive. And of course, 500,000 it's a big number, for each person, and that motivates for sure as well.
Yeah, I would have loved a chance ever in my life to see that kind of number. But we're gonna let you go, man. You're gonna catch your flight. Maybe get a Starbucks or something. But we'll call you next week, Dennis, and hopefully you guys turn it around. All right.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
All right. That was Dennis Schröder. Yeah. Look, I obviously appreciate him joining us from literally walking through Pearson.
That Pearson Wi-Fi though.
The Pearson Wi-Fi, it was a little tough, but also at the same time, just like a lot of players don't want to talk to media after games. And I understand that we have this weekly thing with Dennis. He trusts us. He understands sort of the conversations we're going to have, but he knows he's going to be asked about what happened last night, the bad shots. And I appreciated the fact that he right away said, that game was on me. He said 4 or 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that to his teammates as well.
Which is obviously never one person.
No.
He didn't miss every assignment, but the level of accountability.
He missed a lot of plays down the stretch.
He did, and especially the offensive end late. It's like I said, I didn't think he should be on the floor at the end of the game.
Yeah,
and it sounds like he, takes accountability for that, which is huge. And I think that's an important, when the Raptors talk about, rebuilding the culture and stuff like that, that's an important element of it. You don't want to be pointing fingers or shirking from the accountability if you do have a rough one down the stretch.
There is a big key. It's a big personality trait to be able to be the same person even when you're not winning.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I guess I'm just trying to say I appreciate Dennis for joining us on the show. But we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to step away to do an interview for tomorrow. But you've been listening to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network.
Welcome back to The Raptors Show. I'm Blake Murphy. Will Lou off to pre-tape something for tomorrow's show, hopefully. So I am joined by Alex Wong. How you doing, man?
What's going on, my brother? Just to let everybody know, Will is securing a prominent Japanese athlete right now.
Shohei Ohtani?
So we scooped a Japanese athlete before Rogers did.
But
technically, I guess we are Rogers.
But will the interview air before the Blue Jays land one?
That's a big question. That is honestly a big question. But yeah, second segment here, we're joined by friend of the program, Vivek Jacob. Big V, Big VZ. What's going on, VZ? How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm trying to bring all the Blue Jays good vibes that I can.
Nice.
Got the bat flip
Is
on.
that a cricket? Is that a cricket shirt?
Here's
Is that a cricket? Oh, okay. It's a baseball shirt. My
here's
bad.
hoping for, the biggest Blue Jays moment since the bat flip.
Damn, I love that, man. But
I can't believe you're just forgetting cricket day at the ballpark like that. You're just throwing it out like it wasn't one of the highlights of the Jays season.
Like I didn't give you 2 cricket jerseys from that giveaway, my brother. Come on, man.
I'll wear that next time. If Shohei comes, I'll wear that.
Wow. Well, Shohei has to come now because I need to see Vivek on Front Street and a intersection not mentioned.
Shohei has to come too because the more we could talk about Shohei, the less we have to talk about games like yesterday.
Games like last night, V. So, we were talking in the first segment, obviously had Dennis on as well to chat about the disappointing loss. And I think one of the things we didn't get to, wanted to get the two of you guys' thoughts on was, Scotty didn't really pick it up until the fourth quarter last night. And he's obviously been really good, overall this first quarter of the season. But, that was a game, I think, from Scotty that reminded me a lot of games from last season, right? Where you check the box score, you didn't really feel his presence, and then he kind of comes on late. What did you see last night from Scotty's performance?
Yeah, like you said, a lot of what we saw last season where he didn't really seem to have it early. He didn't seem to be fully engaged on the offensive end, not, dictating the tempo as we've seen for much of this early season. And I think one of the interesting things to track going forward is we've talked a lot about his conditioning, and he's talked about it as a priority over the offseason. And it's one thing to have that energy for the first 20 or so games. It's another thing to have it for 40 games, 60 games, 80 games, plus playoffs, whatnot. And so I think this is going to be the next step in tracking where that's at. Obviously, he's doing a lot on the offensive end, a lot on the defensive end. And how does that play out? Can he sustain what he's shown for the majority of these 20-ish games for the remainder of the season?
So what do you think? And obviously some of this is on Scotty Barnes as well. Certainly the lineups where he's not the point guard, someone's got to get him the ball, or the offense has to get him the ball in certain situations. What can the Raptors do to try to get him going a little bit earlier into games? Because again, this does not make he's a very good in the fourth quarter is a bad thing, but there is a bit of a contrast in how he starts and how he closes. And I wonder how much of that, V, you think is due to the way the entire starting group starts, especially on nights like last night.
Yeah, I think there is something to the fact that, the Raptors coming into this season talked about how they wanted to have Jakob Poeltl heavily involved in the offense, using him at the elbows. And I think as a result, there's a lot of different things going on in the first quarter, and it's not a sort of seamless offense between 5 players just working as a whole. And so everyone kind of gets their turn, and Scotty kind of gets lost in there. And I think Scotty's that unselfish type of player that's looking to fit in. But I think in the fourth quarter, we really sort of see him take charge, and we don't see Jakob Poeltl play a lot in the fourth quarter. And I think the other part of that too is, you go back to the point guard. He's got to set the tone, and along with Darko Rajakovic, be like, hey, we need Scotty to start off strong. So let's really almost, force feed him to get him going and work off of that. And I think that's where some of the changes need to happen.
Yeah, you talk about the slow starts and things like that. I know a lot of chatter on X, formerly known as Twitter, after the game, about just like maybe a change to the starting lineup, how we can possibly shake it up. The team is 9-12 right now, pretty disappointing through the first quarter plus of the season. What do you think about potentially having a discussion about changing the starting 5?
I do think something needs to change at this point. We've seen enough poor starts. And obviously last night we saw that in the first quarter, we saw that in the third quarter. And at a certain point, you just have to look at it and say, okay, you can't have, those Washington Wizards comebacks be, the example. That's the exception, right? That's not the norm. And so I think that's where you have to raise the red flag right now and say something's got to change, whether it's Dennis Schroeder coming out, whether it's Jakob Poeltl coming out. I think that's the debate that you've got to have, whether you want to put that much on Scotty's plate in terms of playing center minutes. Obviously, he's done well playing the 5 this season, but I think that is a serious conversation to be had, especially when you're talking about conditioning and, hey, how do we get him to give maximum energy for 4 quarters? Can you really afford to have Jakob Poeltl be out of the starting lineup and put that much more on Scotty's plate?
Whoever were to come out of those lineups, whether it's Schröder or Poeltl, whether you even keep them in as starters, but they're the first guys to sub out instead of Scotty subbing out and then subbing back in to run the bench. In terms of who would come into that spot, is that a pretty clear Gary Trent for the spacing effect for you?
Yeah, no question. I think when you look at the issues for this team, it is obviously the spacing on the floor. When you look at Gary Trent Jr.'s success as a starter, when you look at the way he's able to operate off of a Pascal Siakam, off of a Scotty Barnes, I think that's the no-brainer switch. And I think you have to at least see how that plays out for a little bit. The other maybe, wild card option that I would throw out there.
Don't say Precious. Like, you're going to say Precious?
No, I'm not. But this is again a real wild card because availability is such a big question mark. Is Otto Porter Jr.
Oh, I like that one.
He's someone that could fit in well in a smaller 5, but because of the lack of certainty over how many games he can start, how many games he can play, period, that becomes a tough one to sell.
Yeah, but this is like, I know we've had these conversations the last couple of years too, like last year about, hey, should we get Gary into the starting lineup, etc. Like, to me, like, these are short-term fixes. And again, the bigger problem is there's just not enough talent on the roster. Like, it's no disrespect to Gary and no disrespect to Otto Porter either. But if these are your solutions right now of like juicing the starting lineup, then you're going to create a problem with the second unit, I think, because like there's just not enough there as well. Like, it's just there's not enough talent on this roster. Like, it's frustrating for me that we have to talk about this exact topic over and over again.
Especially when you compare it, when you look across to the Miami Heat, who there was a long stretch of time where the Raptors and the Heat for like 5-6 years in the league were like 1-2 in terms of who uses the G League best, who finds undervalued draft picks and undrafted free agents best, who is able to get the most out of those like really marginal transactions that don't cost you a lot. But last night, the Heat closed a game with like nobody who makes any money in 3 of the rotation spots. V, you were in Mississauga with me not that long ago watching a 905 game. How frustrating is that for you to look across and see, hey, Miami's been able to sustain that part of their identity forever, really, and that's an area where, you really feel it on the Raptors side?
Yeah, I think the most frustrating aspect of the franchise over the last few years is seeing their competitive advantages dissipate. Number one being, hey, what's the talent that you're getting out of the 905? Number 2 being, hey, what's the internal development that's happening within the roster? Number 3, how are you turning over this roster, right? Like you talked about recently that Rudy Gay trade, the 10-year anniversary, and drawing the lineage from that. You're seeing players now with less and less of a lineage because the Raptors aren't able to get that turnover, right? And get that return. We look at, trades like Terrence Ross, trades like DeMar DeRozan with these huge gains. And now that's not happening as consistently. And that's led to the lack of depth. You look at the drafting, the scouting that's been going on there. You question that to an extent as well. So I think the complete loss of the competitive advantages that the Raptors have had for pretty much the entire We the North era and that whole run, that has probably been the most frustrating part of watching the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think adding to the frustration this year, I mean, to last night, you look at someone and throughout the season like Jaime Jaquez, like I'm just looking at the draft board, like he was taken 18th. And again, I know it's super early, so we're not going to be like calling Grady Dick a bust or anything, but it's like, I'm looking at the way he's contributing. And I'm looking at some of these other players like Keontae George and Utah and all this stuff. And it's like, there's a difference. And I think adding to the frustration this year is like we're repeatedly watching these players like Malachi, like Precious, like all these players, however much you want to believe in their long-term potential. But it's like I feel like some of these players in terms of their development have run their course? And like, at what point are we bringing in people to actually contribute?
Well, and this is my thing, and I have an article coming up at sportsnet.ca tomorrow that looks at some of these lineup questions, and it's like, okay, well, you can understand the rotation patterns and lineup decisions one way if all that matters is winning right now. There's a certain group of guys you would use, and then there's a certain group of guys you would use that if you were only trying to develop long term, this is what it would look like. But those choices of the develop long term side are not really that interesting. Like I've heard people say to the Barnes and bench units that haven't been that successful, well, you need Barnes needs to learn to play with those guys, and you want to see what you have. Really? In what scenario are the Raptors good, where he's surrounded by Malachi Flynn, Precious Achiuwa, Jalen McDaniels, and I don't know, like Chris Boucher or Otto Porter, who are like 30?
Yeah. You think Scotty trying to stay in that scenario long term? I mean, if you keep trying to expand out and have like bigger conversations about the team, like that's another issue for me. And I think you bring up a really good point. So yeah, I don't know, V. Like I'm obviously frustrated. You know, I don't even care about basketball, so you know this is a serious situation, brother.
Yeah, 100%. I think, again, the fundamental issue is a lot of us have run out of patience, but it seems like the front office hasn't, right? And this has been their MO over the years, right? Like if you look back in terms of maybe some people feeling frustration with Dwayne Casey, but Masai persisted with that for longer than people expected. You look at some of the frustrations that some people maybe felt with DeMar DeRozan, and and the front office persisted with that until it was like literally slapped in their face that, okay, something has to change here. And so I think we are well past that point again, where it's like, hey, something has to change. We keep seeing the same thing over and over again. And I think, coming back to the point about drafting, and you're talking about these useful guys like Keontae George and Jaime Jaquez, when I look at the last couple of years for the Raptors, they've almost backed themselves into a corner because of Vision 6-9, where it was like they went into last year's draft and said, okay, we have to get a big man in. And so you get Christian Coloco. Then this year it's like, okay, we have to get shooting. So we get Grady Dick. And, maybe if there was better roster balance, you could have been able to look at the situation more as, hey, let's just get the best player out there.
That's part of what had made them successful drafting in the past. Sometimes there are picks that, make you scratch your head on the surface if all you're looking at is the fit now. And it's like, it's one thing if you're Miami and you take Jaime Jaquez because he fits now. He's a 4-year senior at a major program who's already, I think, 23, right? Like that's very different than taking Grady Dick, who's 19 at the time, and you're looking more like, okay, by the end of his rookie contract, he should be contributing X amount for us. But again, this is where the kind of them trying to do twin track of we're going to develop while we win leaves you in a position where you're not good enough, you're not developing enough, you're not winning enough, and then those decisions you have to make on future picks or making a trade at last year's deadline, things like that, they don't really suit either direction that particularly well. It's not a great spot to be.
No, man, and like I don't know how often you guys are looking at the standings this early in the season, but it's like, if you have aspirations of being in the top 6, I would go ahead and say you got to be, an above 500 team at least. And otherwise, if you're hovering over 500, the Raptors right now are 11th, just outside of the play-in. Like, I don't see a lot of like upward mobility for this team as they're currently constructed, right? Like, we joke about like Darko having a pizza party if they win 3 in a row, but it's like, yeah, it's the fact that they haven't been able to string together anything consistent, right? And like Blake, we've talked about this so much, like, because we do a daily show, like sometimes we'll celebrate aspects of the team coming off a win, and they've had a few impressive wins, but it's like you don't know what you're going to get from this team from night to night. You don't even know what you're getting from them from half to half. They put together, I thought, a pretty good first half yesterday, and then they came out and just gave it all away. So, like, I don't know, man. I don't even know what point I'm trying to make, V. It's just frustrating.
Yeah, and to your point about the standings, over the last 5 years, you have to be 6 games over 500 to finish top 6 in either conference. The last time someone wasn't that far above 500 and finished in 6 was the title year for the Raptors. So, like, the bar is higher than what yes, 2 teams went through the play-in last year and went on a run.
We got to be realistic
Raptors,
about that.
Yeah, and the upside coming into this year, we all talked about was, well, they're going to be about this. And then the upside is, well, what if Scotty Barnes takes a leap? Scotty Barnes has been way better this year than he was last year, and they're still in this spot. So even the one of the big upside boxes has been checked. I guess, V, to kind of round out the Raptors side of the conversation, like at this point, have you downgraded what your upside for this group looks like?
I mean, I don't know if it was that high to begin with. So, I thought this was about a 500 team. They're playing about 500 basketball. And, I think when I think big picture, what frustrates me is looking forward and not really being able to anticipate a major change, because Masai Ujiri is on the record saying that big moves are for the offseason, not the trade deadline.
Where was his big move this offseason?
Yeah, well, he defended that by saying that he considered the coaching change a big move.
Okay.
And so
they're 9-12.
Yeah. That again, that's where the frustration also adds up, right? And so you've once again put yourself in this corner where you're saying, okay, if you're not going to make big moves at the trade deadline, you're talking about Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, Gary Trent Jr. potentially going into another summer where you're just wondering what might be with these potential free agents.
Yeah, and I think, forget about the standings too, man. Like, I'm looking at this. They're like 3 games back of like the Pacers to get to the 60. But the gulf is way bigger than that when you look at the roster and you look at the long-term questions. And like, we're sitting here talking about like whether to put Otto Porter or Gary into the starting lineup as like a short-term fix. Like, this team just feels very far away. And
the pizza party thing is like, we're going to joke about it too much. But like, it really has like, there's wins and losses, and then Alex, your favorite wins and lessons. And
no, we got wins and pizza,
wins and leftovers to keep it with the W and L theme.
Oh man.
V, let's pivot quick. We only got like 2.5 minutes left here, but in-season tournament semis start tonight. Bucks Pacers has the highest over/under in the NBA in 30 years. How are you feeling about these games?
Oh, man, I've been loving the in-season tournament. Tyrese Halliburton is an absolute stud. Love watching him play. Looking forward to that matchup. And, I think what's going to be really fun is the fact that the Bucks have not been as good defensively this year. And so the Pacers will be looking at this situation and saying, hey, we can run at these guys and we can, push the tempo and make this a track meet. And maybe we can get over, what is it, 256.5?
Yeah.
Man, there's a hungover in Vegas at what, 2 p.m. Local time game. It's gonna be pretty wild.
Don't mind cutting my night short to be there at 2 p.m.
No, last night was mad real, man. Yeah, I don't know what else. V, who you got? Pick your winner for the IST.
Man, I want to ride the Pacers. So I'm gonna go with the upset there.
Okay.
Let's go double upset, man. Let's get the Pacers and the Pelicans. Let's have the NBA nightmare.
About to be the worst ratings ever
for an in-season tournament final.
Yeah. They're not gonna want to post those on the NBA official account. Well, Blake and I will talk more about the in-season tournament. Literally 10 seconds.
Enough of the rich getting richer.
Literally 10 seconds for you, V. If the Raptors do win 3 straight, where would you take them for dinner?
Oh man, we're gonna go to Banjara soon. Don't worry.
Once again, I'm not gonna make the joke on air. Have a good one, Lil VZ. Check out Vivek's work. Follow him at Vivek Jacob. Vivek M Jacob.
Yeah.
Is it Vivek M Jacob or Vivek Jacob? Tell me, V.
Vivek M Jacob.
There we go. See, I know you, brother. Okay. See ya, Jacob.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we will go around the NBA a little bit more. That'll depend if Will Lou's joining us again in the next segment. We'll see how it goes. We'll do a little triple N. We'll do a little around the NBA. And we're going to give away some quarter of the season poll awards that we made up. All that's coming up in the second hour of the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Welcome back to the Raptors Show. I'm Blake Murphy. Will Lou will be back in a couple of minutes here, off doing a tape for tomorrow's show, which should be a lot of fun and maybe won't age well if a certain baseball player makes his decision in the next 24 hours or so. We'll see how that goes. Alex Wong still alongside me. What's up, man?
Yo, listen, man. Like I said last segment, we landed a prominent Japanese athlete before Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro. So we should give ourselves props for that.
Yeah, give yourself a little pat on the back.
Shouts to Daniele once again for helping behind the scenes. So.
Yeah, if anyone deserves that high-end suite with a 5-year commitment that the Blue Jays need to sign Shohei Ohtani to make sure they fill, it's you and Daniele pulling that together.
You know,
for sure.
I was gonna say too. Is today Thursday? Yeah, today's Thursday. Sorry, it's been a weird week, but I still don't got anybody for the chain. Somebody got to step up and take this chain for tomorrow.
That's interesting. Yeah, no one's been any help whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely nobody.
No,
nobody has helped us behind the scenes.
No,
man.
we went to Toman and asked him to raise the rent. Just how much we believed in the grind. No one helping us out.
Should we give it to Sportsnet? Oh, I can't even make that.
You know
joke
what
on
is
air.
helping
Never
us
mind.
out?
Never
though. This is an awkward pivot. You know what is helping us out? Having in-season tournament games to talk about because obviously, look, the Raptors just went 4 days without a game. Then they played one that it was the exact same as their last couple, and there's not a ton to really talk about. If this were just regular season games, and right now I tried to bring up Pacers Bucks to you, you would probably be like, "What? Like,
yeah?"
what the hell, man?
I'd be like, "Did you stop watching the Orlando Magic this week? What's going on, my brother?"
By the way, Paolo Banchero 42 last night, and they lost to Cleveland.
Oh, okay. See, I wanted to ask you for the in-season tournament. Here is amongst the 4 teams that are left, right? So we know it's Milwaukee, Indiana, the Lakers, and Pelicans. Like, what's the best to worst case scenario in terms of like who do you think is like the best case scenario for a winner?
For the league or for me as a fan?
Yeah, just like I think in general, like what would be just like, hey, because it's a lot different if the Pacers win versus if the Lakers win.
Yeah,
is what I'm trying to say.
I think the league would prefer the Lakers or Bucks to win, and I don't mean this from a market perspective. I mean it from it establishes that really good teams with championship aspirations will care about the in-season tournament. The Lakers are in title or bust mode because they have LeBron. The Bucks went out and got Damian Lillard to pair with Giannis. Like both of those teams have eyes on the championship, and for the NBA, I think one of those teams also winning the in-season tournament says, hey, this is a competitive thing that real contending teams care about. From a fun and fan perspective, I think it's pretty clearly the Pacers. They've been, they're the upstart. They're going to take one of the biggest jumps in win totals this year. They have this tremendously fun style of play led by this tremendously fun player in Tyrese Halliburton, who's been the breakout player of the in-season tournament so far. So I think that's it on the fan side. So maybe the best case scenario here is we get Pacers-Lakers as a final, and you get a little bit of both, and you get, LeBron and Anthony Davis putting it on the line to try to beat this upstart team that's an underdog. And yes, that arena will be Lakers fan heavy because Vegas is so close, but maybe you do get a little bit of the Rocky IV, Lakers fans start cheering for the Pacers because it's such a fun story. If I can change and you can change, etc. I think maybe that's the best case scenario here. I realize that Giannis against LeBron or Giannis and Dame against LeBron and AD is the easiest sell, but for the future of the in-season tournament, I kind of think Pacers-Lakers is most compelling.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too. I know you guys joked about this with Dan Waikey earlier this week. It's like, oh, if LeBron wins, he's going to make sure that the in-season tournament championship is like part of his resume.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I really wonder, and like seriously, it's like, say if the Pelicans win and, Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram's got that in-season championship on their resume. Tyrese Halliburton's a great example. Like, man, like, do we kind of talk about them kind of in a way? It's like, oh, he's a 2-time All-Star. He was incredible in the semifinals and the finals of the in-season tournament win. Like,
in-season tournament MVP.
Yeah, does that add... I know it's not the MVP, it's not the championship. Does it add a little bit over time?
It's something, it's something that we probably can't answer until like 5 years down the line, but the NBA is committed to this. The ratings have been very big for it. As long as this Vegas aspect goes according to plan, I think they're going to continue to push it. So yeah, I think it'll be something that gets mentioned, but I think it'll probably be closer to the way we talk about all-star nods, where like that is absolutely a case when you're talking about someone's Hall of Fame case or something like that, but it's not like you don't make 10 NBA all-star games and you're guaranteed to be, a top 25 player of all time. It would be more of, well, this is, part of the resume certainly, but we don't weigh it as high as end of season awards or as high as playoff success. That doesn't mean it can't be very valuable because the all-star game, we're getting close to all-star voting start time now, and that's, content that for decades now has been something NBA fans talk about and reference currently, reference in Hall of Fame debates, all sorts of things. The other thing that it could give us, Alex, I know you made the joke yesterday about the Boston Celtics only have one NBA or in-season tournament victory since 1986.
Yep.
The Pacers or the Bucks beat LeBron James in the finals.
Yeah.
You get MJ never lost in the NBA finals or the in-season tournament finals. Because that's like a big thing that MJ over LeBron people, even though LeBron has made way more finals, Michael's 6-0 there, LeBron's 4-6. And now you could add in, well, LeBron never lost in the in-season tournament final.
I think what we need is MJ courtside with his gambling ticket taking the Pacers money line over the Lakers.
Oversized jeans are coming back in, by the way. So Michael Jordan courtside could be a look.
Yeah,
Will lose back.
I'm wearing them right now. I got oversized jeans on me right now.
They're barely
get up
oversized.
and do a little spin for us in front of the desk.
How
What
was
do you think
your,
this was, man? Me showing Yuta Watanabe my Blue Jays jersey.
The interview's done, right? I can finally promote it.
The interview is officially done.
Yuta Watanabe on the show tomorrow unless Shohei Ohtani signs during the 2 to 4 p.m. hour.
Don't worry, even if he signs, man. He gave me some great stuff. It's great chatting with Yuta. By the way, after, this is totally off topic, but just to tease it tomorrow, Yuta was going to sign with the 905 if no other team was going to sign him. That's how much he wanted to stay in Toronto the year he left Toronto.
Wow.
And when he went to Brooklyn instead. Of course, that changed his career. It was a great decision, but damn.
He should tell Shohei Ohtani how much he loves Toronto.
I also got him to pitch Shohei Ohtani because he's actually friends, and I told him, pitch him on what it's like to live in Toronto.
Okay, cannibalize your own show and post that clip today.
I'm going to do that as soon as we have another break here. But what are you guys doing over here, guys?
We were talking to Big VZ last segment.
Yeah, what do you say?
We were just tearing up the Raptors about how if your only solution is bringing Gary or Otto into the starting lineup, it's a cry for help.
It is a cry for help.
We were talking a little bit about the contrast of like the Heat have continued finding undervalued guys, whereas the Raptors had an era of that and haven't been able to, and that's why you're trying to decide like, hey, is Malachi Flynn still in the rotation because he's the only other point guard on the roster, or is he out of the rotation?
What's the point of that at this point?
Yeah, and like, okay, they need to find more room for Scotty at point guard lineups anyway, so why don't you just do it then, because Malachi has kind of played his way back out.
I'm not even trying to pick on Malachi. He only played 6 minutes last night, but...
By the way, first time since the second game of the year that he didn't play at least 11 minutes.
And did you see Desmond Bane have 49 last night?
Okay, all right. We can put the Desmond Bane thing aside because that's too painful anyway.
That's like 60 points if he had normal people length arms.
Oh, yeah, he beat the Detroit Wingstop Pistons. Yeah.
But Malachi Flynn joined the Raptors the same time. I believe that was the same year that the Heat signed both Gabe Vincent and Max Strus.
Wow. They got a BOGO?
They fully developed those guys, who they didn't even use draft picks on. I think they're both undrafted. Yeah. Fully developed those guys into pieces that they made 2 finals runs with.
Yep.
Or 1 finals run with. But, multiple conference finals runs with. Let them move on to the point where they were able to get paid tons of money, right? And rightfully so. They developed themselves into who they are in this league. Gabe Vincent went to a winning program in the Lakers. Max Strus came to Cleveland, and obviously he had that 20-point quarter against the Raptors. They're now in their full second cycle of player development now. The cycle now is like whoever we saw last night, Jaime Jaquez, whoever, we saw...
O-Dog, Orlando Robinson.
Orlando Robinson, yeah, not quite Clifford, or Orlando. Mm-hmm. And like, they're already getting those guys up to the speed now where it's like, I'm Caleb Martin.
And like, by the way, those guys were not the first wave. Like before that, like Duncan Robinson was, a young piece, and we've kind of traced his history as well. And like, he's another undrafted guy that they turned into someone. Now they kept him around, and they're not perfect, right? Like the Justice Winslow thing he was fine, but it didn't work out to the level that they had maybe hoped. Derrick Jones Jr. didn't really figure it out completely until he went somewhere else. Yeah, but he's still a league player. Even like, I guess Bam was a lottery pick, so it's not.
No, but no
crazy,
one thought Bam coming into the league was going to be like what they are.
They also hit on Bam based on the position where they drafted.
They hit even Tyler Hero. They hit on. Like my point is just like the Heat are through a cycle and a half of player development. In the same time, we're still putting the arm around Malachi. And that's
Malachi, who, by the way, in year 4 is still the person people point to when it's like, well, the Raptors should play like a more youth-oriented lineup or a more long-term lineup. It's like, you have Grady Dick, who's with the 905, and 2 guys who are headed into restricted free agency this summer because after 4 years or 3 years and change so far, Flynn and Achua still haven't really established what they are.
Yeah. I guess my point, again, this is not even about Malachi. It's just the fact is that they've been able to it's quite possible to develop in that way. Right? You can't tell me that, okay, every guy that you bring in undrafted is just here for a little cup of coffee and then they leave and they don't really do any impact when Miami's right there and they're doing it time after time after time.
And
So-
you did it for a while
Exactly.
yourself,
We just
right?
need to
Like,
get, we need to get back to that level, no matter what it is.
And like some of the reality is that like these instances are so low percentage that you're just going to miss on some, right? Like no one is going to, like the Heat have missed on some guys. They just don't become a part of the story and they go off somewhere else. Like that's, you know, that's part of it. But they have hit on enough guys to continue that. So some of it is it's hard, but the Raptors, like it's been a couple of whiffs now. Like,
Yeah.
they do not have, for a team that is having 1 foot in the rebuilding lane, I know they don't have a lot of old players who play, but like Pascal will turn 30 by the end of this season. Jakob Poeltl will turn, or Jakob Poeltl's only 28. But like those two, Dennis is older than both of those guys. Dennis is already 30. He'll be 31 heading into next year. Like Chris Boucher is 30. And is about to turn 31. Like
Otto Porter is a
Otto
turnover.
will remain 30.
Yeah.
Otto actually will just stay at 30.
like they're not built like a rebuilding or development team. And this is, you know, again, this comes up in the article I'm writing, and it will be up at sportsnet.ca tomorrow about some of the lineup stuff. Is just like this not picking either path means that neither path right now is as attractive as it could look like. They're not good enough to be competitive, and the future does not look bright enough, other than like Scotty Barnes is probably a star. But that's like one player does not do much
That's
for
not a
you in
team.
the
That's not
No,
a team.
I love what Otto Porter brings to the table when he plays, but when that's an actual conversation of is Otto Porter going to be in the rotation going forward, I'm like, what kind of goals are we striving towards, short term and long term? Like this really a team going nowhere right now, and it's been like that for too long.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable. It is. I don't know why I'm so angry.
Is this what you guys were talking about before I crashed?
Oh, we were
the segment?
blasting the
Oh,
Raptors
nice,
for
nice,
like
nice. Okay,
yeah.
nice.
Yeah,
Nice,
we're
nice,
doing a
nice,
little-
nice.
because you're paid by Rogers and you're not willing to do it.
Apparently, yeah, you guys are doing
Apparently, I
this,
get a different check.
you guys are doing this pro bono. Yeah.
Call me Bono.
It's not
Anyways,
pro bono.
let's get to nice noise.
All right.
Blake, quick explanation for those who may be tuning in for the very first time.
All right, pretty straightforward. I will give you guys a stat or a trend, and you guys will tell me if it's noise, which means you don't think it's true. It's just not going to sustain over a larger sample.
Noise.
Even though we are a quarter of the way into the season. If it's nice, which is you believe in it and you want it to stick around or think it could be even better.
Noise.
Or you're going to nice that, which is this is real and the Raptors got to cut it out immediately.
Nice.
All right.
Okay, let's go.
So
Triple N. We
let's
should get you a hat that we just get you a Nick Nurse hat with
I
another.
feel
N
like we
in
need
there.
like an EDM beat to kick off the segment.
All right.
Let's go.
This one is front of mind after yesterday and after writing what I wrote for Sportsnet.ca tomorrow, and it has to do with lineups. This is worse than it sounds because they had such an outlier bad last night. The starting five now has a negative net rating on the season. Will, how you feeling? Is that noise or they need to nice that?
No, they need to nice that. Like, actually,
You think it's real?
I do think it's real. I think that they started the season really strong, and the bench was clearly the issue. They found different ways to balance out the production from the second unit. They found a way to get Pascal back to being a really productive player. But in the midst of all of that, I feel like the starting lineup comes out each game, and they're not really setting out the tone. Like the fact that we get out to these slow starts pretty much every other night is a real problem. And that comes down to the starting lineup. And whether that's you change the lineup, whether that you change how the lineup specifically is played, if you change who is in that lineup, like something just has to happen because, you just can't come down every single game. Like it was like 17-5. And Darko had to call the first time out. That's an advanced stat I love to track. How many times Darko has to call the first time out because they aren't
Pizza's here.
ding dong.
Ding dong. We went from bing bong to ding dong.
Yeah, we really did. That's really tough.
Uh,
But I think that I'm okay with them trying to continue with the current 5 players, but they need to figure out what their specific hierarchy is. It feels like they have like one play they run on a consistent basis, which is they get the ball to Yak, they have Dennis set up a back screen,
orange
and then
chin punch.
and then they get like a high-low pass to
Is that
either
a drink at a
Pascal
resort? Oh.
or Scotty or OG. But like besides that, what else you got, man? Like it's just got.
Nah, you know what, man?
So, Alex, let me ask you then: Are you saying nice that to the performance? This group has to be better. Or are you
Yeah.
saying nice that to this starting 5 altogether?
No, man. Keep the starting 5.
Okay.
You know what? These guys need to step up. Like Dennis.
Okay.
No, Dennis, the starting point guard. OG, you want max money. Pascal, you want your new contract. Like, Jakob, you just got your new deal. Like,
Yeah, Jakob doesn't want anything.
Scotty, you're an up-and-coming player. You want to be recognized as, like, one of the top young dudes in the league. Like, figure it out, man. Like, why are we always coming in here every year being like, yo, put Gary in the starting lineup? Are you kidding me? That's not a solution, man. These guys got to figure it out. Like, figure it out. This is the talent of the team. These are the top players on the team. Like, figure it out. Like, figure it out, man.
Look,
I never see you act like this before.
I don't know why I'm so angry today. I looked at this.
Bradley
It's
Beal
the
right now.
temperature.
I looked at this 9-12 record, and I'm like, yo, enough is enough, man.
Wow.
Like,
It's the temperature.
It's
You're
enough.
I never
uncomfortable
thought
and it's
I'd be the
making you
happiest
fussy.
person after a loss.
No, keep the starting lineup and earn your pizza party, man.
All right, let's go.
Yeah.
All right. There are so within the Raptors not playing very well, there are some obvious things like, hey, they're not very good at shooting the basketball. That's gonna hurt you. But there are some less obvious things that, especially a team that is supposed to be hungry literally for a free dinner, but figuratively for a next contract.
We went from how hungry are you to 3-game streak pizza party. What are we doing?
Serge is now just like offering up the bull,
Yeah,
etc. pizza,
what are
just
we
like as
doing?
an incentive
What
instead
are
of
we
as a
doing?
gag. Okay, so some of this stuff though, you would expect a team that is young and hungry to be better at. We last did this segment on November 15th, so it's been about 3 weeks. It's a good chunk of games. What were they last time? They were 500 last time when we did this. So they've gone 3 games under 500
God
since.
damn it.
Even if you want to accept, hey, there's some stuff that's personnel based, they're just not going to be able to shoot the 3 well, whatever. In that time since our last one, they're 23rd in the league in transition defense, which to me, I know some of it is execution, some of it is defensive talent, etc. But that to me is probably the best indicator you can find statistically of this team is like locked in and focused and gets back. What do you make of that? I mean, this is outside the triple N definition, I guess, because I'm just asking your opinion on it. But it's probably been the most frustrating thing for me, and it was certainly the most frustrating thing for me in that Knicks game.
Okay, look, we can definitely say that this is a hustle stat. Essentially, this is something that's an indicator of how organized you are too. Obviously, floor balance wise. Is there anything execution wise, Blake, that you're seeing that's leading to that number?
In transition defense, no, because the Raptors are built in a way that, like, part of the idea of everyone being the same size and very switchable is, yes, you can switch actual actions, but part of the challenge of playing the Raptors both ways in transition is the Raptors are not supposed to care who guards who. Like, obviously you have a preference coming out of a timeout. You want OG on Booker. You want OG on Donovan Mitchell. But a huge part of this is supposed to be, well, just get back. And whoever picks up whoever, will deal with it and you'll be able to switch around it. And it would be one thing if the Raptors were like unbelievably good on the offensive glass and we could point to, well, they're sacrificing some transition defense to crash the glass a little bit more. And we know they're crashing principles. You can crash out of the corner. If you crash from the top, you only go a quarter of the way. You only go to that kind of free throw line extended. And that's usually only if it's a jump shot because a long rebound might come out. They're 7th in offensive rebound rate. To me, that's not enough to make up for the lack of getting back and getting in front of a guy. And we saw it a couple times in these close games when it feels like, you know, they ran out of gas or they just like ran out of belief or whatever, that's the first thing to slip.
Yeah.
Do you feel differently?
No, I agree with you. It doesn't feel like, first off, one of the, strange things about the Raptors last few years was they were so good on the offensive glass, but they're also quite good at getting back in transition defense. I remember asking Nick about this a couple of times just because it's like you only have limited resources. You either choose to crash the glass or you get back. And the Raptors were talking about doing both. And they found ways to do it where it felt like, okay, the Raptors are not gaming basketball, but they were finding these little edges, these little marginal advantages that help to supplement for the fact that they don't shoot the ball well.
They're like trying to find cheat codes.
Yeah, exactly.
Just get talent.
They're kind of glitching the game, but at least they were successfully doing it. Now it feels like, okay, they're definitely not a team where it's like, okay, they're going to kill it on offense every single night. But then you really have no excuse for not getting back, especially because, again, this team has a lot of 6'9" forwards. You should be able to cross-match a lot. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's tough. What's the next one?
All right. So this is, I had an offensive one in here. I'm just going to say it. We obviously know this is very bad, but the latest update is they're 27th in three-point percentage, 29th in free throw percentage, and that makes you 27th in true shooting percentage overall. By the way, since over the last 5 years, only 4 teams have made the playoffs with a true shooting percentage as low as the Raptors. That includes the 21-22 Raptors. So this is
proof of concept.
This is what they're about.
Yeah, really is.
Okay, let's
get more talent.
Man,
Yeah.
is there anything nice on this list?
All right,
Oh my God, we're gonna nice this whole segment.
I guess there are a couple nice things, but we're nicing a lot today. So, Alex, let me ask you about this one because we talked about it a little bit earlier. I know what you're going to say, but I'm curious as to the specifics of how you would like it to change. Dennis Schröder, in how I define clutch situations, has a 27.4% usage rate and a 41.3% true shooting percentage. If you are not familiar with those stats, it means he's using a lot of offensive possessions not very well. We are, of course, going to nice that, but how would you like to see the kind of crunch time possessions distributed?
Better coaching from Darko. Yeah. Let's put people in positions to succeed. If guys are doing well on a night, like Pascal, OG, Gary, whoever it is, let's get the ball in their hands.
What is more concerning? So the usage rate is probably more concerning to you than the actual percentages.
Yeah, but why are we letting Darko skate on this too, man? I know he's a rookie coach, but they're struggling. And there's been like a lot of nights where I feel like it stood out to me that Darko's made mistakes here and there. So
yeah,
sorry,
there
guys,
have been a few, and I don't know what
I've never seen you act like this.
Yeah,
better talent, better coaching. Let's go.
I don't know how many games it takes
Enough's
for
enough.
coaching performance, but yeah, like some of the rotational stuff. And again, this is kind of what I write about in the Sportsnet.ca piece tomorrow. Is that like 21 games into the year, a part of the frustration for me is not just that they haven't played very well. I feel like we've learned nothing. Like they have not tried out of the box stuff. They have this unconventional roster building strategy, and then they shoehorn a point guard and a center in who don't really fit with the strengths and weaknesses of that trio. They've run, the Scotty and bench unit for 100 minutes and like different versions of it, but it's still kind of what it is. We've done very little mixing and matching of like, let's get some spacing around Scotty, Pascal, OG and see what that looks like. I really feel like we haven't learned very much.
I'm going to push back on that.
No, like
I'm going to push back on that. And this is why. I feel like we're playing offense in a very different way than he did last year, and we're playing defense in a very different way last year.
Same results.
It's just the same result.
Worse results, honestly.
I've compared it to if you were coming from Mississauga to Toronto during rush time traffic, you could take the 401 and then the DVP and get downtown. Or you could take the 427 QEW. You're still going to take 2 hours to get there.
Yeah.
That's what the Raptors have been the last 2 years.
I mean, look, their offense last year was 12th. It's 24th this year.
I was shocked. I was shocked that when I found out their offense was 12th last year. Listen, the thing about Darko too, I'll say, is like he's not being put in a position to succeed either, because the same problems I was here last year when Nick was like, if you defend Nick and you're like, yo, there's not enough talent on this team. That's why he's playing 6.5 guys to try to get on like a 5-game win streak. You look
for
at
one pizza party.
No, but
Nick wasn't throwing no pizza parties.
You look at the minutes distributions. Like, you can go through the games this year. Maybe they could have picked off 1 or 2 more wins this year if Darko went with the Nick Nurse approach and went with just 6 guys. That's obviously not what they're doing now. But like, Darko's not being put in position to succeed. He doesn't know if Pascal's going to be here past February. He doesn't even have the assortment of guys to develop. Like, you trying to develop a team long term. Like, who's he trying to establish an identity with? So like, the front office has failed the head coach in a way too by not picking a path.
Yeah, and I thought about the discrepancy because 24th in offensive rating versus 12th seems like a big difference. The Raptors are actually shooting marginally better from 3 this year and marginally better from 2.
They margin both.
No, the difference is they're not getting offensive rebounds as much, and they're turning the ball over.
Yeah, they went from the fewest turnovers to 20 to
so they
the 11th
dressed it
most
up all
turnover.
differently.
Yeah,
that's
but
what I'm saying.
The exact same.
It's when you turn on Waze.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, I got 2 options. Oh, they both say 2 hours.
Also, I should point out too that like the half-court offense rank is the exact same as last year.
That's what I mean.
Just they've lost the transition stuff and they're coming about it a different way.
I cannot believe their offense was 12th last year.
Yeah, it's because they
shocked.
got out in transition at a historic rate.
Okay, because eye tests, they were not at 12.
Eye test was
oh
nasty.
my god.
Yeah.
Eye test nasty.
Yeah. Well, in the half court, it was just as bad as this year. There's basically been no change. Look, I really don't have a lot of positives here.
That's what I was
so
gonna
how about
ask
this? How about this?
I got no friends left at the Raptors.
Are we saying nice or noise to the fact that based on EPM, which is estimated plus minus from dunks and threes, we don't really put a ton of stock into catch-all individual metrics. But if you were to reference one, this is the one that I like the most. Yeah. Scotty and OG are both top 20 in defensive impact. Is that noise, or are you keeping that and you think it's real?
I do think that's real because both players are defending at a pretty high level. OG defending at a high level on ball. Scotty defending at a high level, sometimes on ball, but definitely off ball. He's been doing a great job rotating over. What's confusing to me is how bad is the rest of the team defensively then if the team is also not that good defensively?
Yeah, it's a real question.
How does that add up, though? I'm curious.
No, I mean, give me 1 second and I will just bring up the whole team
it's
here.
not adding up because they're just not a good team.
Yeah, I mean look,
obviously 2 guys can't be your whole defense.
No,
I guess.
and these stats try to account for, what role you're being used in. So Scotty doesn't get punished as much as you might think from like manning those 4-man bench units, because this can look at who else is on the floor.
Okay.
So we are controlling for that. So Pascal actually has a positive overall as well. But what you start to see is like every bench player and Dennis all have like big negatives in terms of their defensive impact.
Damn.
This team has won 2 in a row twice this year, man.
Yeah.
It's a quarter through the season.
Okay.
Also, I mentioned the starting lineup being negative now. Over the last couple of weeks, they have struggled at both ends. Like the defense has got worse and the offense has got worse. Okay. And I even looked at what if we controlled the 3-point percentage, and like opponents have shot 39% on threes against them, against that lineup, which like that's not going to sustain. You don't have a ton of control. That would probably come down to like 37-ish. Even if you did that, they're still only playing their minutes even. Mm-hmm. And if you're a team with a bad bench, your starters gotta win the minutes. So the other side of this is Scotty Barnes is the only Raptor in the top 60 in offensive impact. Wow. He's 59th. I don't know. Do you believe that? I guess like is Pascal not in the top 60 in terms of offensive impact, or what do you? I guess this is not nice noise anymore. It's just what do you think of this bad thing I found?
What's Scotty's usage rate compared to last year?
It's up, but not up enough.
It's not jumped like a lot.
It's not jumped enough in my estimation. Okay. His front court touches are up, which means he has the ball in his hands a little bit more. But I still think it's too much of the like DHO perimeter stuff, where I'd like to see a little bit more of him actually, handling. His usage rate is up from 20.3% to 24%. Alex, I think that should probably be north of 25, given his importance and how much you need to find out about him this year.
Yeah. I know Pascal got off to a slow start, and obviously Pascal's 3-point shooting being as bad as it is right now is going to drag down the overall effectiveness.
Up to 20.7% after yesterday.
Getting up to 20.7 is wild. That's
he's above the Mendoza line, 0.200.
If I speak.
Goodness. What is this? Bo Bichette's walk rate? No, I'm kidding. That was actually way too high for Bo.
Yeah. That's Juan Soto's walk rate, maybe.
Oh, okay. I'm out of my depth now. But
Soto trash because he's on the Yankees now.
I just feel like Pascal has to have a better offensive impact than that. I mean, like since he's turning around, maybe over the last like month or so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's my eye test. That's not me looking at the numbers.
We can't split them up that way because these things need a larger sample, and they're leaning on some of last year's data and regressing this early and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm with you. I think Pascal has been better than. I think he's been a top 60 offensive impact player. But this is the issue when you try to use these. Wow. When people try to get into these metrics, is like it's zero sum, right? Like there are only so many wins in an NBA season. Yeah. Okay, I have 2 for you guys that are not really Raptor specific. They're more about league context or team context specific. So EPM also has a team component. Mm-hmm. So like just, similar to net rating, but they adjust for strength of schedule. The Raptors have actually had a pretty tough schedule. Once you look at actually who's been good and who's been bad. When we look at those things though, and we adjust net rating for strength of schedule, the Raptors are still only in 22nd. It doesn't make them look much better. However, there is a pretty amusing thing going on where there are 21 teams that are about even to good to great. 21 teams could say, yeah, we're having an okay year, like we're within range. There are 8 teams at the bottom who are clearly bad, like unspeakably bad in the case of some of these teams. And then if you were to draw tiers of this or plot it on a graph, the Raptors are just by themselves in 22nd. There are 21 teams that could make a case that they're average to great. 8 teams that are like, nope, you can't even have a conversation. Those teams are so bad. And then there's the Toronto Raptors in the low middle at 22 alone. Alex, does that feel like a right categorization of the Raptors to you?
Yeah.
Just on their own island?
This is when the Raptors landed right in the middle of Kirk Goldsberry's chart. I think last week. Yes, they're so average. That's why we're talking about all these things. And the problem with average teams is we have to talk about the same things over and over again because they will be good 1 out of every 3 nights, and then we'll pick positives from it, and then they'll come back and disappoint you the next 2 nights. That's what they do.
damn, the Asian parenting popped out.
I put on this pinky ring and I've changed into a new person.
Yeah. I think that's for us, like contextualizing the reaction is like, it's not, okay, 21 games in the season's over.
No.
We are now in the third year running of like these exact issues.
That's the thing. We talk about sample size. This isn't and this is why it was a little curious to hear Masai say at the start of the year, you know, we want to evaluate what this group looks like. I know it was a new coach. I know there's a new point guard and you know, Grady Dick was a rookie.
Even a new system.
Sure.
Yeah.
But like, you can only, like, that is only an asterisk for so much. Like, you're only considering that so much of a factor, right? Like, they're not running that new offense every single time down the floor. They're not, you know, Grady Dick isn't playing 100% of possessions and things like that.
No significant injuries.
Like, we know
so far this season.
We know who everyone is individually, except we don't really know with Grady yet, and we're not sure of Scotty Barnes' ceiling. We know he's really, really good.
Yeah.
Those are the only two question marks individually. Is there anyone else you don't know who they are?
No.
I guess Precious, but that's more of a dig at him than a positive because you just don't know who he is night to night.
That's a bigger question.
Tomorrow night he might. Then Monday you might not.
Yeah. Actually, I thought Precious played okay yesterday, but I mean,
yeah, he was fine.
Great. That's great.
Okay, here's the other one, and I'll start with you, Alex.
Damn, I'm not used. I'm not used to being the most calm person here. Damn.
I mean, I'm just setting it up.
Sorry, guys.
So, the Raptors right now, and this is nitpicking, but I'm curious what you guys think about it. Raptors are averaging 19,644 people per game. That's not. Hang on.
I was like, that's a high number for the offense.
99.2% of capacity at Scotiabank Arena. That sounds really good. You're sixth in the league in attendance. You almost fill the stadium every night. They have not been that low in terms of percentage of Scotiabank Arena filled since the 2013-2014 season.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
I don't know. What do you think, businessman? Yeah.
Listen, I feel more passionate about this than the actual product on the court. Listen, if your product slips, you got to drop the price. And the price has been going up. The price of tickets, if you go, I mean, I talked to a lot of
Stringer Bell went to one community college business class.
You know, Stringer Bell found the ability to find the intersection of two lines, aka for most of microeconomics.
He Kurt Goldsberry.
So yeah, he learned Y equals MX plus B. But like, if you talk to the season ticket holders, their prices got jacked up 15-20% across the board.
Yeah, it's been talked about.
This is like related to what we're talking about with Shohei and the Jays. Like, a big part of this push and why that is a possibility is like, yeah, they jacked up the price. They moved some season ticket holders, or season ticket holders, you know, chose to go to a cheaper section. They've got all these new suites that they want long-term commitments on. Like, those are real factors in how you operate your basketball or baseball team.
Of course. And
not hockey, because I think the Leafs are the one team that's inelastic demand.
Yeah, honestly, probably. Yeah. Wow, this is really the Stringer Bell.
That's Econ 102
though. But so if the product is actually worse,
too many 40-degree days in here.
You know, like what signal are you selling? And listen, I'm not saying that these businesses don't have the right to go out there and collect as much money as possible. That's on them. And if people continue to buy, which they clearly are, what was like 99+%,
99.2,
yeah, you're fine. Right?
Of course.
However, what that does lead to then is a lot of people getting more and more unhappy.
Sure.
No, and isn't happiness also part of the equation? I understand that this is capitalism, but like, people should be happy. That should be the goal of society.
We're clipping this segment for LinkedIn, or what's going on there?
Yeah.
We got Gary V on the line.
Listen, there were a lot of empty seats last night, but I also think part of that was because of the fact that in-season tournament-wise, they planned these games a week out.
Sure.
And so you didn't even know what you were buying into, all that kind of stuff.
I'm with Will, though. I think,
it's a problem. It's not a good way to run business. I'm sorry.
Anecdotally, you talk to like season ticket holders, you talk to like, you know, long-time Raptors fans, the excitement is not there right now. And I think long-term, you're willing to pay those raises and stuff because you want to still be in the arena, you want to keep your seats, but this cannot be a long-term product that you're presenting to people. Like, you have to be excited. There's no excitement in it right now.
All right. So I'm going to do the same thing Darko does when he's had three negative quarters in a row, or 3 negative games in a row. We've had three pretty negative segments in a row. Now. So I'm going to throw Otto Porter in the mix to try to end the run of negative play and finish this segment on a positive. Otto Porter has played 125 minutes this year. That is not a lot of minutes, but Darko Rajakovic said after the game last night that he's probably back in the rotation now. I don't know. He's even been in a back-to-back, so I don't even know if that's a restriction. Otto Porter has, by far, the best net rating on the Raptors roster. Nice, that's sticking around, and this solves everything, or is this noise, Will?
No offense, that's noise. Because
I tried.
When you watch the game, like, I understand that there's a real value to a player not making mistakes, and I don't think Otto makes a lot of mistakes. I give him that credit. But you watch these games, he's not actually doing that much. You could say, well, passively, he's spacing the floor, which is somewhat true. But most games, he's not even involved. He probably touches the ball the least out of anybody that comes on the court. He's not defending the biggest opponents on the most biggest threats. He's just on the floor, not making mistakes, and that alone is giving him a nice plus minus. It's actually kind of incredible.
The absence of negatives is a positive sometimes.
Otto Porter was brought in after the Raptors won 48 games, came out of like a first-round series, feeling good about themselves, supposed to be a huge bench piece to a win-now team. This is not a win-now team now. It's clear they're not going anywhere right now. And if the question is being asked post-game, after you fall to 9-12, whether Otto Porter's in the rotation going forward, then that's just an indictment on where the team is at.
Also, that was not a definitive answer by Darko.
I don't know.
If your partner comes up to you and says, "You're probably in the rotation," that's not that ain't a wedding ring. That's not a wedding ring.
Man, what you know about that? Man?
That's a promise ring, though. I'm thinking about committing.
What
to
you know about that?
That's what Alex is wearing on his finger right
now. All right. Speaking of hardware, do we want to take a break and then give away these fake awards, or do we want to save the awards? What do we want to do?
Let's decide during the 5-minute break because we are chaotic.
That's not how I should set up a break. Then
it's all good. That was not nice. That was nasty.
Yeah.
No, it's nice.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a break. I've been your host, Willow. You've been listening to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network.
Sorry.
Welcome back to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, Wim Liu. We are going to hand out our fake first quarter awards shortly. But I just thought about, because I came into the studio mid-segment, and you guys were hot. You guys were talking to Vivek. You guys were in this like energy, and I wasn't really familiar with your game, quite honestly, Alex. And I realized, I was like, why am I in a better mood than these guys after a loss? Typically, that's my role. And I realized it was because after the game yesterday, and I was absolutely steaming after the game yesterday, went downstairs.
Oh no, is this a Kyle Lowry brag?
And I just happened to walk into the tunnel when Kyle Lowry was walking out of that tunnel. And I had this moment, I was like, is Kyle, is he going to stop and say hi? I don't know. Does he know me? Like, I wasn't like around the beat that much. And you're walking closer and closer. You're not going to stop your walk. And then he comes up and he's like, "What up, Lou?"
Yo.
And he gave me a dap. And I told him, and I was mad nervous. I rarely get starstruck, but it is Kyle. And I told him, "Welcome home, bro."
Yo.
I think that's why I'm in a good mood, because Kyle dapped me up. I was like, you know what? I'm not that mad about the Heat loss after this.
That's growth meets growth, man. Greatest rapper of all time. Greatest, React pods of all time. That's a growth meets growth right there.
Nasty.
The big booty and the big head. The Big Bang Theory. I respect your game.
Salute to Kyle, man. Welcome
I
home,
respect your game a lot, Lou. And I love you, my brother. But I was shocked that Kyle knew your name.
I was shocked that Kyle knew my name, because I was not on the beat until like 2019.
You know what? You were heavy on the Tampa beat.
I was heavy on
the
Tampa
beat. And I think that's when he got to know you. Because you and VZ famously asked his last two questions before the trade deadline.
That's right, yeah. Actually, that was an amazing
which people thought was going to be his final game.
Well, Kyle also took the time to answer every single question. And if you know anything about Kyle Lowry, he was not excited to answer a lot of media questions in general.
He's anti-media.
Other than teasing us. But he took the time out. And it was like a 25-minute interview. He answered literally every single person's question as much as possible. It's the day before he turned 35. And the trade deadline was the next day. And then all of a sudden, the trade deadline went by. He was still on the team. And he's like, "Why y'all say goodbye?" It was actually quite funny. It was like going to someone's funeral, but it turns out the guy was awake. So anyway, that's the humble brag is out the way. Let's hand out some first quarter fake awards.
Speaking of awards, I have a note on a real award.
Yeah?
We've now seen what the in-season tournament trophy looks like.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah?
Yeah. There's a picture of a lady holding it. It's like half her body.
Yeah.
Damn.
They tried to go Stanley Cup with it instead of Larry O'B with it.
I really like that black shiny basketball that they were showing. Is that
the bowling ball?
Is
for
that what
all tournament team?
Oh, that's an all tournament team. Okay, I like that.
Mm.
All right, let's get to it. We got 9 minutes left. Will,
Let's go. So
we're handing out awards. These are fake awards. We made our own categories. Will, you may go first.
So my fake award, the first one, is the Scott Foster and Chris Paul Most Petty Beef Award. And that actually just came in yesterday. It's Bill Simmons versus JJ Redick.
Give the listeners the context.
They're beefing over whether or not JJ Redick, who was actively playing in the NBA, was committed enough to video podcasts during his time at the Ringer.
Because JJ went on Zach Lowe's podcast and basically gave a little context of why it didn't work out at the Ringer, and he said that the Ringer was not committed to video enough. And of course, the Podfather fired up a response, and he said, "Hey JJ, I like you, enjoyed our time together. You did 8 pod apps total in 2019. 3 had NBA guests. You started doing video pods in mid-Jan 2020. Pandemic happened 7 weeks later. You never took the pods seriously until 2020. That's why it's good. I'm still a fan."
No, I'm still a fan. Is wild, but yeah, this is.
You never took the pod.
Despise that dude.
As a
random beef.
as a podcaster, hearing someone tell you never took the pod seriously is the most hurtful thing that you can say to a pod man.
Well, because it's one of two things, right? Either you did take it seriously,
Yeah.
and what that means then is like you just didn't have it.
Yeah.
Or you didn't take it seriously and you realize you didn't get away with it. Like, because most people,
Yeah.
I think, who are in a big platform and don't take something
Yeah.
seriously think they're getting by
Mm.
just fine without taking it seriously.
You know, it's funny, Blake, because like you a big wrestling head, and we know sometimes these things get set up, and then eventually these two people feud and they fight at like WrestleMania.
Yeah.
You know what this is gonna end up in?
It's
Bill
gonna be a
Simmons and
pod.
JJ Redick gonna do a live pod at All-Star Weekend. I want to put money on that.
Yeah. Something like that.
This is so stupid.
I'm still waiting for Jordan Poole to appear on Draymond's pod.
I'm mad at this too. All right, Blake,
Let's go. Your
what's
fake
your
award.
award?
All right, I'm going to give out, you used it earlier. Well, I'm going to give out the Shaquille O'Neal, I owe you an apology. I wasn't really familiar with your game.
I
award.
wasn't really familiar with your game.
You have to drop.
Thanks, D.
I'm going to give it to Goga Batadze.
Yeah.
He
yeah.
has been a big piece for the Orlando Magic, stepping into the starting lineup with Wendell Carter Jr.
Yeah.
This is a guy who was waived by the Pacers, who have a pretty good talent evaluation
Sure.
and player development system going on over there. They were like, nah, this guy's not it. In the middle of last season, and then this year he catches on with the Magic, kind of jumps his way from third string into the starting spot here.
been
He
great.
handed it to the Raptors, and I tell you, I watch a lot of Orlando Magic ball, and he's a real piece. Wish I had known this when he was freely available for nothing last year.
Yeah,
Oh,
I believe I texted you during that Magic game. The
Disgusting.
actual words, I wasn't really familiar with Goga Batadze's game, so
That's
he
the
absolutely
award.
deserves this award. Alex, what's your first award?
I'm gonna go with the public divorce we don't want to hear about anymore award, and that's James Harden and Daryl Morey.
Yeah, I'm
James
done.
Harden gave another interview, I believe, to Sam Amick at The Athletic
That's his guy.
earlier this week. Well, they need to just chat privately, and he revealed that I think he tried to get every team for a tampering charge. He like revealed that Daryl Morey had promised him that a deal was coming,
A max.
a max deal. Believe he also revealed that after Ime Udoka was hired by the Houston Rockets, a meeting was set up while he was still a member of the Philadelphia 76ers. We know,
I wouldn't be the only one who did that.
yeah, we know that Harden has been really bitter to the point where he's brought out, bottle service girls to hold a sign that says Daryl Morey is a liar.
Mm.
I just, it's over, man. It's over. You're with the Clippers. You
You're
guys,
doing well.
you guys are fighting for whatever you're fighting for this season.
They're 7-3 recently.
That's my
James Harden's
championship.
playing well.
Yeah, that's my championship pick right there.
Can I interest you in July though, the James Harden Lawrence Frank beef?
Oh my God.
Oh, man.
Anyways, it just we don't want to hear about this anymore. As a basketball community, we have collectively moved on.
Yeah.
Like we don't need to hear this anymore.
But I will say, Daryl Morey actually broke the one rule in sports, which is he promised the money and then never paid him.
I thought you were gonna say the other thing. I got shook.
No, he fully broke that rule because as you remember,
Sure, yeah,
James
yeah.
signed for a short-term,
Mhm.
less than max contract.
Mhm.
They circumvented the cap,
They
basically
fully
on the promise that he'd get it on the back end.
they fully fixed the housing market for Daniel
They
House
did. They got a
and
house.
PJ Tucker.
Right, they got a tuck. Yeah.
And you do that because you promised the guy that you're going to sign him for the max, which you never did. And whatever, I get it. He's not a max level player, but you shouldn't make that promise.
Plus,
in the
that's your
first place.
guy, man. You have a painting of him hanging in your condo.
Yeah. Are they going to pod together afterwards? We'll never see. Okay, let's fast forward a little bit. My next fake award
Yeah.
is called the Alex Wong bets the entire Bet Rivers credit on Jakob Pertl's first bucket award for who will spend their $500K in season tournament winnings in the funniest way possible. This is the longest award name of all time.
I love this.
But it's going to Zion Williamson, and I'm going to provide no further comment.
You know what? Everybody saw the clip going around, right?
Yeah, we know what it is.
From Scott
we know
Cancel.
Zion's reputation.
Yeah, hold on. I'm really quickly dividing 500,000 by Spotify Premium is $14.99. LeBron can give out 3,335 Spotify Premium.
This is your accounting background. coming out.
But he won't.
Exactly.
That would be the funniest way to spend the 500K.
Yeah. Shouts to Zion. He needs that money. All right, Blake, your next one.
All right, this is the Chris Dunn. I've been watching too much Raptors basketball, kind of forget what real basketball looks like. And even though the Raptors don't need this, there's some mid-defense first guy that I want as a free agent this summer. That award goes to Haywood Highsmith. We didn't see him last night on the Heat, but we've seen a chunk of him this year defending all over the court. He's very, very Raptors-y. He ranks 4th in defensive positional versatility, how often you're switching around the floor. They don't need him. They didn't need Chris Dunn. They didn't need Rondé Hollis-Jefferson. I don't know. I can't quit these guys. I'm worse than Messiah and Bobby for it.
You've been Raptor pilled. It's okay, man. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's just me just chasing Andre Roberson still.
For the record, I'd still take him. I would also take Haywood Highsmith. He's a nice player.
This guy said, "Give me Highsmith."
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Alex?
the I refuse to count out LeBron James award goes to LeBron James and the Lakers. You know, I was watching them against the Suns the other night
You were watching basketball?
in season tournament, and I was just like, man, when you need to win a game, like I'm still taking LeBron, man. Like I'm still taking LeBron. I think they have a good enough team. They're like 13-9 right now. Like I'm sure they're gonna make a trade. You know, they're a huge trade candidate coming to the trade deadline and stuff. They made a nice run last year. Obviously got swept by the Nuggets, but you know the Nuggets were on another tier, and the Nuggets might be on another tier again when you get to the playoffs. But when you start stacking up these Western Conference contenders, you look at Minnesota at the top, OKC at the top. I'm still taking the Lakers. I'm still giving them a chance in a 7-game series against anybody, man.
Has anyone else ever won the I refuse to count out LeBron James award?
No,
I feel like Steph could have one.
It's 20 years running, man.
Steph looks so young, man. He stayed in great shape.
I'm just saying, would you guys be shocked if the Lakers ended up in the finals this season? I know there's still a long way to go.
Honestly, no. They're in the inner circle for sure in the West.
Yeah.
Really quickly, the last couple for me.
Yes.
The Magic Johnson PBWA award, that's the Pro Basketball Writers Association award, which is an actual award for best quote of the quarter mark. That's going to go from me to Dylan Brooks on the Grizzlies without him. Quote, "It's like the girlfriend you used to have. You didn't know how good she was until she's gone."
Oh,
That's
a Janet Jackson song. Yeah.
That's such a bomb.
Oh,
Anyway, yeah, shouts to Dylan Brooks, man. We're rooting for you.
Yeah, this one is even too on brand for me, but this is the Christian Wood Award for, I don't necessarily know if this is going to translate to the NBA level at any point, but you're the most fun player in the G League. And that goes to Imoni Bates, who was a second-round pick of the Cleveland Cavs. He's still only 19. He's been awesome. I don't know if it's an NBA skill set, but he's a lot of fun.
He was great in Summer League, too.
It took Christian Wood like 15 years to figure it out.
Yeah, he could really shoot, but also he was a hugely touted prospect.
Yeah.
Like, they were calling him KD and stuff.
Oh, here's a big deal. He's on slam covers and all that stuff.
But I'm rooting for him.
That's the only reason why I know him. My last one is just the new main character of the NBA award, previously held by Draymond Green and Dylan Brooks. I'm giving it to my guy Jalen Suggs on the Orlando Magic.
Yeah.
I feel like everywhere you look, he's taunting the Celtics. He's recreating the D-Wade LeBron celebration. I think Jalen Suggs has firmly introduced himself to the NBA audience this year.
This is the difference between the Orlando Magic and the Miami Heat. Their recreation of the LeBron and D-Wade was done with Jalen Suggs and Cole Anthony.
J. Cole.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the Magic are doing well, but that's a step too far for me. We got to respect tradition. But that does it for us today. Been your host, Willie. You've been listening to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Make sure you find The Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe. But please rate and review the show. Thanks once again to Dennis Schröder, Vivek Jacob, producer, co-host Alex Wong, Blake Murphy, board producer Derek Brandale, Jennifer Rolnick, David Siss, JR Manatad helping behind the scenes. We'll be back to vent tomorrow.